All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Call my friend Anthony Catania at Sharp Corners at 831-521-5264. All right, let's talk a little bit about cut down day in the NFL. A lot going on today around the NFL. The 49ers, like every other team in football, pairing their roster from the 90-man training camp roster to the 53-man regular season roster. And today is the day that everybody has to be down to 53 men. And then, of course, you can add 17 men to your practice squad, 16 plus one international player. So the 49ers are doing exactly that. And they've lost some players today. They've gained some players. They've retained some players to their practice squad. First, let's start with the practice squad. Chase Lucas, who's a good special teamer, good corner. He's on the practice squad. I was hoping that they would re-sign Rock Ya-Sin and get him on the practice squad. To this moment, that hasn't happened. Chase Lucas is coming back to the practice squad. Jonathan Garvin, the 49ers badly need defensive end depth, and Jonathan Garvin, who did not run a good 40 time coming out of Miami, like 4.84, something like that. And he's been in Green Bay the last few years. Garvin makes the practice squad. So to me, I think they're probably looking to upgrade that defensive end. But man, it's a lot of slim pickings at defensive end. Evan Anderson, who the Niners gave $280,000 guaranteed to sign as an undrafted college free agent out of Florida Atlantic. I thought Anderson looked really good in camp this summer, and I thought he looked good in the preseason games. Now, he doesn't move great. He's a true two-gapper. He's their only two-gapping player that they really have. But he's got a lot of upside potential, and you can really see it there. And I really am excited that they added him to the practice squad. I think there's long-term potential for Anderson. If he gets his body in a little bit better shape, he needs to lose some baby fat. He needs to put on some muscle. He needs to kind of reproportion his body. But if he dedicates himself to really working, man, he could have a hell of an NFL career. I mean, what he's got is 320 pounds and quick feet. Great strength at the point. I mean, this guy can split double teams. He's good against the run. But he's a zero technique. He's a one technique. He's not much of a pass rusher. So he needs to lose some weight. He needs to get a jump rope. He needs to get his footwork down and work. And if this guy puts in the work a year from now, he's going to have something really special. Tracy Walker is on the practice squad. This is an interesting one too, because the 49ers also have Talanoa Hufanga, and, Hufanga's situation is that he's not quite 100%. So the re-signing of Tracy Walker could potentially mean that Talanoa Hufanga will not be ready for week one. I like what I've seen out of Tracy Walker. He's aggressive. He makes good plays on the ball in the air. He's an aggressive, tough player, a veteran who's been through the wars. Eric Saubert is back on the 53-man roster. He was cut yesterday. He was re-signed today. So he's the blocking tight end. So the Niners now have Tongas as the receiving tight end, Saubert as the blocking tight end, and Kittle, of course, being the number one tight end on the roster. So Tracy Walker is on the practice squad. Another guy who's on the practice squad is Tanner Mordecai. Tanner Mordecai played great this summer. He had the best throw in camp. I thought the corner route that he threw to Jacob Cowing a week ago might have been one of the best throws I've seen all summer in practice. He had 2 or 3 of the best throws I've seen all summer in games. How about the one where he moved to his left and threw? He's a right-handed quarterback moving to his left and then reaching back across his body to find the release point, and absolute threw a perfect dime to, I think it was Ronnie Bell, on a play the other day where it was just as good a play as you're going to find. I mean, one of the most difficult throws you're going to have is a right-handed quarterback moving to his left, trying to throw to a receiver who is running a crossing pattern, and you got to get the timing down. This guy put zip on it. He had accuracy. He put it right on the hands. I mean, Tanner Mordecai's got 4.45 speed, and he's got the strongest arm of any of the Niner quarterbacks, and he's played a lot of football. And he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to, wet the bed if they had to throw him in there in a key situation. So I still, to this moment, I like Tanner Mordecai more than Brandon Allen. I like Tanner Mordecai more than Josh Dobbs. But I asked Greasy about it. He's like, hey, we got a veteran team that we're trying to win the Super Bowl. So, we're going to put the rookie on the practice squad, and we're going to go with the veterans backing up. But I think Mordecai's better than those guys. And ultimately, I'll be proved correct on that. T.Y. McGill, another guy in the practice squad. McGill is a one-gap penetrator defensive tackle who's seen it all, done it all. And he's, he doesn't mind being in that practice squad role. He's played on a bunch of teams, and he gives the 49ers another veteran practice squad defensive tackle. I mean, he's definitely can help them. Another guy who was just moments ago added to the practice squad was Trent Taylor, the rookie, the veteran return man. And, I think Jacob Cowing is going to be the punt returner. And I think Isaac Guerendo is going to be the primary kick returner. But it's nice to have a guy like Trent Taylor, who's just such a solid route runner, such a solid special team player, such a sure-handed special team return guy, that it's nice to have a player like that a phone call away. And seriously, putting him on the practice squad is probably a good practice squad decision there. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys on the practice squad. They'll pick 9 more plus Isaac Alarcon, who will get the international spot on their 17-man practice squad roster. As far as players they lost today, they lost Cody Schrader. Schrader was picked off waivers by the Rams, which is really interesting to me because now Cody Schrader in a lot of ways reminds me of Blake Corum, and now he's going to back up Blake Corum and Kyron Williams in Los Angeles. And that was a good pickup by McVay. I mean, Cody Schrader's a good back. Jarrett Kingston was picked up by the Panthers. Second year in a row, the Panthers have had high waiver priority and have stolen somebody off the Niners roster. Last year, it was Deshaun Jameson. This year, it's Jarrett Kingston. And Kingston's got a strong upper body. I think he's got a lot of potential to be a starter at right guard in the NFL. Sam Womack did not clear waivers. He went to the Colts. So Womack, you lose another good corner in Womack. And I don't like this one at all because I think Womack is a starting caliber player. I thought he came off his best preseason game, but he just got caught up in a numbers game. So, Chris Ballard is one of the best GMs in football, and he knows where the value is. And he saw Womack and counted the Niners' numbers and was ready to pounce. And sure enough, he didn't clear waivers today, and the Colts picked him off. John Feliciano is going to remain on the active roster, according to Matt Barrows. Ben Barch is going to remain on the roster. Whether it's going to be on the practice squad or the active roster for Barch, that's still kind of TBD, to be determined. But Barch is going to be part of their mix. Tracy Walker will be there, which, as I said, could mean that Afonga won't be ready for week 1. Eric Saubert's back on the 53-man roster as well. So the 49ers, have made their decisions for the most part. And we'll see if there's, to me, if there's one thing to watch for the rest of the day, it's defensive end. And first of all, I'm headed down to practice right now. Brandon Ayuk is expected to practice for the first time this summer. So really looking forward to that. We'll have some video footage of that. We'll talk to John Lynch after practice. I believe we talked to Kyle Shanahan today as well. We'll get the latest on Trent Williams, the latest on Brandon Ayuk, John's thoughts on the roster, John's thoughts on the practice squad. But, the 49ers, you're never going to get it perfect, right? And the final 53, what is the final 53? It's not really the final 53. Because the thing's constantly, it's a living, breathing organism and just changes week to week. What's going to happen to guys like Rock Ya-Sin? Is Rock Ya-Sin coming back? Is Logan Thomas coming back? We still have some questions that still are left to be answered. And then there's, I looked at the cuts from around the league, and just looking at the cuts from around the league, there's a number of interesting players who are out there that, that could help the 49ers. Now, where are the Niners need help? Maybe it's safety. The Vikings cut Lewis Seen. Possibly at defensive end, Jannard Avery, the veteran from Indy, he got cut. Andre Carter from Minnesota, who had, I believe, 2.5 sacks in one of the preseason games this summer, he got cut. He's a 6'7" player, might be interesting. There's not a lot of defensive ends that are out there. Frank Gore, by the way, I mentioned before, maybe would the Niners have interest in signing Frank Gore Jr.? He signed with Buffalo's practice squad, so he's no longer on the market. The defensive end cuts were almost non-existent. The only defensive ends that I saw of note that were cut around the league that could be of interest, Charles Snowden by the Raiders, who looked good against the Niners in the preseason game at the end there. He was cut, and not too many other guys. I mean, Carl Lawson and Teron Jackson. Carl Lawson by Dallas, Teron Jackson by Philadelphia. Those are 3 defensive ends they may want to take a look at. Offensive line-wise, I thought, the Seahawks cut 2 good offensive linemen in McClendon Curtis and Garrett Greenfield. I'd love to see the Niners grab one of those guys and put them on their practice squad. There'll be a lot of roster back and forth on the practice squad, seeing, that's what we see typically in the NFL over the first couple of weeks of the season. Is you'll see some players kind of settling into roster spots, and then there's all kinds of little roster moves here and there, and you'll see some adjustments to the practice squad in the first couple of weeks. But the Niners, that they're like everybody else. They lost some good players. And really, when you look at, to me, this is the time of the year where you figure out who the deepest teams in football are. You can sit there and have a list of, oh, this team's deep and that team's deep. But the real tell on if a team's deep is how many players get picked off at the cutdown by other teams. And the 2 teams that had a lot of players, I think the Niners lost 4, and I think Green Bay is the other team that lost 4. Those are 2 of the better rosters in pro football. Jalen Graham is signing with the Commanders practice squad, so they lose Jalen Graham. That hurts. So the Niners lost 4. I think Green Bay lost 4, and that tells you that Gutekunst and Lynch really had done a nice job as far as roster depth, because that speaks to your roster depth. How many of your guys get picked off here at the cutdown? To me, one of the surprises is that the Niners decided to give Ambry Thomas another look, and Samuel Womack didn't get that look. That is a little bit of a surprise to me. But we'll see. We'll see how this thing shakes out. The 49ers decided to keep Dobbs and Allen. The question that I think has to be asked is, who's number 2? Who's the number 2 quarterback if Brock gets hurt? Is it Brandon Allen or is it Josh Dobbs? It could be either, and it could be a different guy week to week. My guess is that it's Brandon Allen. Just based on the usage in camp. He started 2 of the 3, or he played in 2 of the 3 preseason games. He seemed to have an edge over Dobbs. Dobbs, I think, maybe outplayed him in those preseason games, but he seemed to have an edge in Shanahan's mind as far as the pecking order of things at practice. So just another thing to watch here for the next 24 hours. Who did the Niners? They've kept both veteran quarterbacks, and they kept Tanner Mordecai for the practice squad, which I think is the smart thing. Now they're fortified. They've got 4 quarterbacks, 3 on the active roster. They got 1 on the practice squad, 4 guys that I think are all decent quarterbacks, and they could probably play and win with. But who's number 2? That is the big question. And what veteran defensive end or what defensive end on another team is going to be a Niner? I just got to think that before the end of the day or before the end of the weekend, there will be some defensive end from somebody else's team that's going to find his way to the Niner roster. I think that they could really use definitely 1, maybe 2 defensive ends. They're very, very thin at that position. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.